This is Analog Spectrum. Their first idea for a podcast had to do with funding a Hee Haw revival show. That didn't happen, so consider yourself lucky.
The red light is flashing.
The red light is on. This is Analog Spectrum, and this is Tony, and I'm here with Doug. We're going to record a few shows. We're going to start with some stuff.
Post-holidays.
We're post-holidays now, yeah. And so, New Year, happy 2023 to everybody. First, today what we're going to be talking about is two movies.
Yes.
And
joint effort here. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Batman and the Joker. I think these two work well together.
I think.
Yeah, even for obviously the characters live in the same universe, but I think
stylistically there's a lot of similarities.
That's exactly the point I was making. They're very similar, and it's almost like the directors in a way kind of got together. But we'll get into all that. Mm-hmm. Hey, first thing I want to do before we get started, and you can slap me if you want, is I'm as we've talked about in the past, I edit the podcast. So every time I'm editing these, I'm thinking, oh, that was a mistake. So I'm going to issue a few corrections before we get started. First, there's 17 games in the regular season of the NFL. I think a while ago I said like 15, and they actually upped the games in 2021. I talked about we were talking about racing and cars. I mentioned Watkins Glen being in California. No, Watkins Glen is in New York, and Sears Point is in California. Yeah. Ron Howard was not involved in Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
The thing I keep talking about.
That was Spielberg and
Tom Hanks, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously Hanks, but
I think he was also. I think Hanks co-producing. Now I'm going to have to correct this shit later. So
whatever. Yeah, dude. Like there's somebody fact checking us. Who cares? Anyway,
I'm fact checking.
Yeah.
It bothers me.
All right.
So anyway, the one thing we always talk about. I mentioned that whole thing where people think they're smarter than they really are. That is called, which is ironic right now.
There is no claim of smartness on this side of the room. I'll tell you
that's referring. I think we talked about it before, but that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And that's is cognitive bias in which people wrongly overestimate their knowledge and ability in a specific area. It's actually, when you start drilling down on it, it's actually very interesting.
Okay, let's do an episode on that.
I will.
Right.
And I think a while ago I talked about how there is a certain rule or a certain law where in the time you have something to get something done is the time you need to get something done, and that's referred to as Parkinson's law. Okay, so
yeah, it sounds like philosophy to me.
It isn't it, but it makes sense because you ever think about, like, I know, especially when I was in school, like you might have when I was taking classes, and and it kind of feeds with procrastination because you think, well, I have 2 weeks to get this done, so I better start working on it. And you procrastinate. Next thing you know, you've got 2 days, and somehow you manage to get it done. It's almost kind of feeds into that thing also where you say, 80% of something that you need to get done takes you about 20% of the time. That last 20% takes about 80% of your time, depending on how much perfection you want to obtain. How close you want to get to perfection. So anyway, it's basically like it says here, you give yourself a week to complete a 2-hour task. Then you mentioned, psychologically speaking, the task will increase in complexity and becomes more daunting so as to fill the week. So anyway, I always thought that was an interesting thing. So there you go. Okay. Parkinson's law. It's actually another thing. That and the Dunning-Kruger effects both are very interesting. So
okay.
All right. Okay, so movies. DC versus Marvel. Not DC versus Marvel. But I wrote that down. I was thinking about this when I was putting this together, how right now the DC universe is kind of blowing up because James Gunn, who did he did Suicide Squad for DC, but he also is the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy and some other stuff. And he is now the co-CEO or something like that of DC, and he's like clearing house. He's getting rid of all the, he's getting rid of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. He got rid of, what's his name? The Rock, Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam, got rid of Henry Cavill as Superman, and got rid of Patty Jenkins associated with Wonder Woman. He's just basically doing, just resetting the DC universe, the DC extended universe. But I was also thinking about that versus Marvel and which one I like better. And I think we talked about this quote before. I think the quote that Harvey Dent had, or Two-Face had in the second Batman movie, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I think about that with the Marvel universe. Used to be really, really good. Now I kind of look at it as, almost like a caricature of what it used to be. It's just not as good as it used to be, So I'm almost a little bit of a fan of the DC universe, probably because it's a little bit more organic and chaotic right now. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, but we mentioned, we talk about the Batman. We'll start with the Batman. You said it's been a little bit since you've seen it, but yeah. So just real quick, the Batman. Oh, spoiler alerts, obviously, right? 2 hours and 56 minutes long, directed by Matt Reeves. He has done a lot of different stuff. Did some episodes of Felicity. There you go. Great. I don't know.
I never seen it. Don't know what it is.
It was a show in the 90s. It was a kind of a chick show in the 90s.
Okay.
Did Cloverfield. Did Planet of the Apes movies. Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes. Written by Matt Reeves. Also written by Peter Craig. Peter Craig also wrote Top Gun Maverick. So there you go. Or has a writing credit. So starring Robert Pattinson as Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Selena Kyle, Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, Colin Farrell as the Penguin, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it was interesting that, because I'm a bit of a comic book nerd, to me, this had a bit of the Batman Year One and also a little bit of Batman The Long Halloween, which were two comic book stories, long arcs. Year One being when Batman first became Batman, and The Long Halloween just went through a whole year of Batman trying to catch this individual. I think his name was like Calendar Man. And but of course this one started in Halloween. But this is just a early, kind of. I personally thought it was kind of an early time in Batman's crime fighting career. Where he is up against the Riddler in this. He has to, and also he's kind of up against organized crime, the Falcone mob family, and so forth. So anyway, what did you think of it? What were your thoughts on it?
My first comment is I'm in way over my head.
Are you really? What do you mean?
Oh, Jesus. I don't know any of that shit.
It's okay. So, but I want to get your opinion on it. I think.
Yeah, well, so here, this is good. Okay, for listeners, you'll get two reviews of this movie. One, I literally accidentally found this movie, and I don't know I think it might have been when I had a cold or something and I was looking for something to do and I just turned it on. I'd never heard of it before. I didn't know any of these people, nothing. I just watched it totally out of the blue. Right. And I gave it none of me. You know what I mean? Like I was not invested in this film in any way, shape, or form. You clearly are a Batman fan, at least to the point where you have all this background knowledge and you can see the conflicts and the storylines and all that sort of stuff. I don't know any of that shit. So, my point is just this: when people are listening to your comments, that's what you have all of that background. Mine, literally, like a 6-year-old, I have no clue.
Well, yeah,
but from the movie making perspective, that's kind of where I'm seeing it, and just from an individual story. With the, I knew who Batman is. I knew who the Riddler is, and whatever.
Right. Adam and Gordon West, and all those folks,
Adam West and all that. Anyway.
Right. Well, tell me what you tell. I mean, but I tell you, with that said, I could be wrong. I have a feeling that we may have similar views about this movie.
Yeah, it could be. But my point to it, the whole thing is that I went into this as a complete neophyte. You know what I mean? So, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't mean my opinion less valuable. It's a different perspective.
And also, you're familiar. I mean, you and I talked about the Dark Knight and all that kind of stuff. So you've got some
I've seen other Batman films, which is one of the reasons I wanted to watch this. Anyway, so first comment: I could not stand the what's his name? The guy who played Batman,
Robert Pattinson.
Pattinson, really? That's his name?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't stand him as Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
But I thought he was awesome as Batman.
I get it.
So I couldn't get over Twilight. Every time I saw him outside of his costume, it's like, okay.
And I want to comment on that. Keep going.
Whatever that is, Team Freddy or whatever the hell that dude's name was in Twilight.
Never saw Twilight.
Yeah, I've seen glimpses.
Right.
Because my wife was a big fan. She liked it a lot. So I saw glimpses. But anyway, I thought the story, I liked the grittiness. I liked how it was almost too much, and I want to say the same about the Joker, but it was a good level of grit, and I've always disliked the Gotham architecture. Maybe the way they build that city up to be
Gothic.
Yeah, but
not this
too
one.
much like New York, right? It's too New Yorky, and even with this, with the New York mob, with the accents and the Falcone, hey, forget about it over here, all that.
Right.
To me, it's like stereotypical New York without calling it New York.
Right.
And so I think if you have the universe at your beck and call, you can make whatever you want, make it something different. Which they did, of course, and originally with Batman, they did that with all of the crazy characters, the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, all that.
Right.
But I just felt like in this particular film, it was too New Yorky for me. In that, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? A stereotype. It was too much of a stereotype. The city.
Well, I've often wondered about that because that's one thing that.
But it had like Chicago elements as well, right? With the L line going over.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that I'm sure someone out there who is really into all of this has kind of pinpointed, because I don't even know if in the DC universe is there a New York, is there a Chicago? I don't know. But all these characters throughout the Flash and the Green Arrow and Nightwing and all on down this, obviously Superman and so forth. They live in cities that are not cities that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
But there's no LA. There's no Seattle. But Marvel has like a New York. But I don't know.
I think my only point is that I understand, I get it, and I appreciate the creators of these comics. Long ago, all they really did is identify some really archetypal characters in our world and represent them with these characters in this world. And of course, they built this city of Gotham around all of our cities, right? Our generation is not the first generation to have crappy cities, right?
No.
Look at New York in the 30s and the 20s and the teens. Look at Rome. Shit. I mean, you go back as far as you want. So it's a human problem and has been for a long time.
Right.
You get all these people in close quarters and crime escalates and people take advantage of one another because they get desperate. And all that stuff is built into this. And I get that. Sorry. But in this particular story, for some reason, it bothered me that the way that they portrayed the city, it was like it was a character, and I didn't like that character.
Okay.
So, outside of that, I really did dig the Batman as the character. The Batman, I thought he was good. I thought the motivation of him fighting crime was a little bit lean in this movie. It wasn't, when you watch Dark Knight, he struggles. And like you said, maybe it was like his early version of him starting, because it did seem like he was trying to figure stuff out, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it was his early, but that made him seem a little bit awkward,
right?
Which didn't bug me too much, but I liked his suit. I liked his gadgets, and I did think that I liked him when he was talking as Batman in this. And some of them I don't like when they are speaking as Batman. They're just So he's shaking. Tony's shaking his head, and people can't hear that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
I
go
agree.
ahead. Yeah,
I
jump in.
agree. I totally agree that and I guess it's kind of give and take here. I agree. Again, I do agree with you. I did not like him as Bruce Wayne, not because of the Robert Pattinson thing. I've kind of gone past that, even though I'm not a big fan of. I mean, that whole. I've never been a young adult novel person,
Right.
So, but he did have to get past that.
But he wasn't like as Batman. Okay, so yeah, there's the Twilight thing, but
Right.
then you get past that.
No.
It's like he wasn't. he was more like an emo.
Oh,
You know
God,
what I mean?
you know, son of a bitch. That's what I was going to say. Last
Yeah.
night we were having dinner with a friend, and she used that exact term, which I
Yeah.
agreed with, is the fact that, you know, the whole point of Bruce Wayne is that he's got, you know, he doesn't want people to know that he's Batman, so he playboys it up, right?
Right.
You know, he just seemed very like, morose or
self-absorbed.
you know, very gloomy, you know, and I, now he's supposed to be vengeance, right? He's not supposed to be depression, right?
Yeah,
So he's, you know, he should be past that. My parents are dead thing. I really feel depressed about that. Now he's living to you know, get his
Right, make the world
justice.
a better place.
Get his justice and vengeance on all the people that got to that point, right? So I agree with that. You know, as far as the city goes, you know, I don't know. And maybe kind of to dig a little bit more into the plot, you know, there's this one focuses probably on three villains, or three individuals from Batman's Rogues Gallery, that being the headliners, the Riddler, and then you've got the Penguin, and then you've got Catwoman, and also you've got
and Falcone.
Falcone, and of course Salvatore Maroni, which you don't see in this because he's busted because he was the drug guy. Yeah, they were from the Long Halloween, so they were the ones that were in there. But so the Riddler is killing people that he feels you know, led the city down this dark path where, you know, there's a separation between the haves and have-nots, and these people have
taken advantage
of every, you know, basically to the detriment of everybody. He feels like Batman's on his side on this, and while all that's going on, you know, there's kind of this parallel plot where Bruce Wayne finds out that his father, well, he already knew that his father had saved Carmine Falcone after he'd been shot back 20 years ago, and somehow that had played into Falcone and Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, having some sort of like deal where maybe Thomas Wayne did something that was
could have been a dirty guy, dirty politician,
something like that. Yeah. So, and but the thing I really liked, there are things I thought were interesting. I totally agree. I think I liked his suit. I liked the Batmobile. I thought the Batmobile was kind of cool in this because I like the scene when they're like in the Batcave and you know, there's parts everywhere. And, you know, there's no Lucius Fox in this. Or I'm sure there is, but it seems like he does a lot of his own, you know, getting everything together. He truly is a detective. I thought it was really interesting that like Gordon was inviting him into these crime scenes. That's something that's never been done before in a movie. And I thought that was very intriguing because that is in a lot of times that's in the comic book where Batman shows up. I thought his interaction with the police were interesting. I thought the fight scenes were well done. I thought Colin Farrell as the Penguin
he was awesome.
He was amazing.
That was really good. Yeah, he was a good Penguin.
Yeah.
I liked the Gordon as well, the guy who played Gordon.
Yeah, I thought he did great.
Because he's been I've seen him in a couple of things lately.
Westworld.
Westworld is one of his more famous. But I thought he played a good Gordon because he was almost desperate for help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which explains to me a little bit more of that relationship in the future.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey Wright, the actor, by the way, just so people know.
And, but yeah, I thought the Penguin was great. Again, I thought Falcone was very much just a rubber stamp.
Yeah. Well, I liked Gordon. I put him right above like serviceable. He did a great job. He was, a good job. He played it. But he filled the role that he needed to. I thought he was great.
Which on the opposite side of that, I did not like, what's his face? Alfred.
Oh, you didn't like Andy Serkis?
No, not at all.
All right.
I just thought there was a couple of times in there that I thought, okay, he's pretty good, but for the most part, I thought he was just stiff and not good. And that whole scene in the hospital where he says, you know, like whatever, your father was a good man, or whatever. I mean, Jesus, that was sorry, the piglet's here today. In case anybody can't hear
Lucy's disagreeing with you. No,
but yeah, I didn't like that. That was just way too on the nose and way too like.
Yeah. Now you got because you're Pennyworth. You got your Pennyworth. You know.
No, it wasn't that
joking.
at all. Yeah, no, it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, well, once again, Michael Caine crushed Alfred, and I can't see anybody else doing it as well so far. But,
yeah, and kind of circling back around on something you said before I lose it is that I do completely agree with you, your point that he was not a good Bruce Wayne, but he was a good Batman, and this voice had a lot to do with it. I never liked the voice that from The Dark Knight. Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? The guy who played Batman in the last movies.
Yes. Tip of my tongue now, too.
Golly, man. That's what happens when your brain gets to be 54 years old.
Yeah. I'm beyond you there.
But anyway, the way he always did the voice.
It'll pop into my head in a second.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that Bane, you and I have talked about this a couple of times. That whole Bane, the movie with Bane was the perfect
Christian
example.
Bale.
Christian Bale, that's
yep.
it, yeah. But yeah, Bane was the perfect example of how bad that can actually be.
Yeah.
But I thought this one was good, and I thought that in particular, the Penguin's voice.
Oh God, man.
And his accent was really good. I thought he did great.
All right. I love the scene also where he's being interrogated by Gordon.
Yeah.
And,
that was the pinnacle of that character.
It was where he goes like, "Oh my God," and he goes, "You guys are supposed to be the detectives."
Yeah,
I forget what it was, but he figured out that it was like the Riddler was referencing Falcone, Falcon, and that was great. But the car chase was great too.
Yeah, the car chase was. I don't know. I was up and down on that one. That was cool. I liked that car though, so it was kind of cool. But that moves us on to the Riddler, and I thought. That guy was awesome. I thought he was really good. Little cheesy with the goggles and whatever, and little cheesy with the gazillion of them at the end and all that. But him as a character, I thought was really good, especially how he was sort of like a lunatic. He played that. He pulled that off really good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I thought when Batman was interrogating him in Arkham, and he kind of starts going like, no, because he suddenly had this realization.
Yeah, Batman's not on his side.
Not on his side, it's funny because a lot of people were kind of critical of the actor Paul Dano who played him, but I and the character itself. But I agree with you. I did like him a lot.
Well, I mean, especially our generation, you compare that with the Batman TV series and the Riddler, and it was just like, holy mackerel, this is a dude in tights, and it's like, well, again, he was a cartoon character, I guess, so whatever, but I thought this guy did a really good job on that. I
thought he did a good job of, again, kind of bridging that gap of because we grew up with Adam West Batman, right? And you kind of move through the Tim Burton Batman and so forth, and of course you get really crazy with the Joel Schumacher stuff, and but there's this ever since the Chris Nolan stuff, and to make it kind of make Batman kind of a believable thing as much as you can. There's always going to be some extension of disbelief, but this is another one that where you can say, I can kind of, surely there's never going to be a guy that's like Batman, but I can see this Batman, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I did like him. What do you think about Selena Kyle?
Catwoman? I liked the Catwoman character.
Right.
I want to say about the first half of the movie.
Okay.
I liked her throughout all of the scenes where she was in the club.
Right.
I liked watching her sort of jump into the Catwoman role and explore that a little bit. But when she started getting the romantic thing with him, I totally lost it. And I hated that stupid ending where they go off in different directions on their motorcycles. I'm like, oh my God, man, stab me in the eyes. I can never unsee that. It was terrible.
Not to get political, but what do you think about the scene where she mentioned it's just nothing but rich white men running out?
What do you think?
Oh, man. What killed me about that?
Why put that in there?
That was my thought.
That makes no sense whatsoever. You have to go and make your freaking political statement.
Well, it's hardcore.
Shut up.
It's a little hardcore virtue signal. And what kills me about it is that's Zoe Kravitz. I mean, Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet are your parents. I promise you're not you're not,
you're not
marginalized.
yeah,
okay.
you're not-
Yeah. So,
starving.
so to me, it's like, and I just think that line was put in there to virtue signal. It really takes you out of the movie when it happens.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't fit at all.
it did not fit at all. And I was like,
No.
why do we have to do this? You know?
Yeah.
And so but that's when it was made, it was made during that time. But yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page. I think it was a good movie. I think it was a good movie.
Yeah, it was
but-
pretty entertaining. I thought there were points that it fell off a little for me, and one of those was Catwoman. A couple times it was her. The other time, when all of those lookalikes,
right.
and the city was flooding and all of that. I'm just like, yeah,
I thought the movie. Well,
it's just too much. You know what I mean? For me, but, yeah.
Two thoughts on that is that that movie it had gotten a little too long at that point to me.
Yeah.
Where and also Batman is supposed to stop the bad guy, but technically speaking, he didn't. The Riddler achieved what he set out to do.
Yeah.
And that's a little odd. So I just thought it went long. And I also thought like the whole Thomas Wayne lies murder kind of thing, that seemed like a bit of a stretch for me. That was something that has never been in the mythology. And so I wasn't that hip to it. But there were a lot of things about it I did like. I thought it was a good kind of continuation. I'll be interested to see where it goes. And I thought Robert.
Oh, they're doing more.
I think so. I think. Well, I thought Robert Pattinson was fine. I thought
Batman is fine.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I do think again. And it had nothing to do with the Twilight. Like I mentioned, he's just very gloomy, and I didn't get that. Yeah, so
emo Bruce Wayne.
It's so funny you should say that because I wrote here also reminded me of the movie Seven, the whole but the whole dark. Yeah. But I think if they could pull away from that. Oh, I know what I was going to mention. My brain flipped off for saying one thing I did really like about the whole Catwoman thing is there was that scene where like Batman was fighting her, and I was just so glad that he not only did he hold his own, he just dominated her. Yeah, he just dominated her. Yeah, and so because he's Batman, but in today's,
well, it's not just that. It's like I really am more than tired of the 90-pound woman, flipping the 260-pound Russian guy.
That's my point. That's my point is that normally they would
kind of over that.
Yeah, big time. They, and Batman's Batman. But I'm very much over the.
You mentioned it a few minutes ago, and I did like the choreography of the fight scenes on this because it was pretty solid. I mean, he took some hits and stuff, and which was good. He wasn't like the perfect jujitsu kung fu. Well, got his ass kicked a little bit, so which is good. Yeah,
yeah, he was still figuring his shit out.
Yeah,
there was that scene where he was in the police station and he goes to the top of the police station and he runs to the edge of like the ledge, and he's like, he clearly is like, oh shit,
what do I do now?
Yeah, what do I do now? And then he pops out the wingsuit and he totally fucks up the landing, right? Yeah. I mean, so yeah, there's that scene where he goes into the Penguins Club and he gets in the fight, and the fighting was a lot of it was brutal, where he would
sorry to be critical again, because we're talking about how good the fight scenes were, but at the end where he gets shot, I mean, you blast him with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, even if you had bulletproof, dude, he's still a guy. You know what I mean? He ain't getting out of that after that.
Well, and they leaned that was maybe one of my criticisms too, is they leaned a little heavy on the bulletproofness of his suit. Yes. Because there were scenes where like people were like literally shooting his shoulder, which is like 2 inches from his face, and somehow he managed to avoid taking a round to the mouth.
Yeah.
Which is good for him.
Good for him,
so,
yeah. So doesn't have a bulletproof mouth.
Yeah, and I know. Our shield.
It's a good name for a punk band, Bulletproof Mouth.
It is. Or just put your head down, right? Yeah. But he just walked into it. But the opening fight scene where he fought kind of the Joker-esque kind of guys, that was good. Yeah. But, all right. Cool. So we'll circle back around. I am going to ask you I would like you to pick one over the other. For sure. Yeah. So, all right. So
you want to talk about the Joker?
I do want to talk about the Joker.
Let's start it like this. You ready?
There it is.
That's actually pretty weak. Anyways, whatever. And it's an orange soda. It's not even a beer.
All right, so The Joker, 2 hours 2 minutes, directed by Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips is an interesting guy too. He's known mostly for the Hangover movies. He did the Hangover movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he also did Due Date, Starsky and Hutch, Old School, Road Trip, Frat House, War Dog. So
Jeez, none of which I liked. Wow.
I did like Hangover.
No.
Okay, I did. So he
it was like what was that? What was that? What was that movie with all the girls where the one chick was getting married? Bridesmaids?
Yeah, Bridesmaids.
Yeah, Hangover's just Bridesmaids.
Well, Hangover came first.
Wow, okay.
So
Bridesmaid was better.
Bridesmaid was good. I liked Hangover.
The
I mean, at the time,
scene was
I
great.
thought it was fine. Yeah. So
anyway, so all right, moving on.
All right,
Sorry.
so also written by Todd Phillips, which I thought was kind of interesting. He's actually got a writing credit on Borat, which I thought was interesting. And other writer was Scott Silver, who The Finest Hours, The Fighter, 8 Miles, Mod Squad. Okay, so and of course this is yeah.
I haven't
Hey,
seen any of this stuff. None of it. I haven't seen a single one of those movies.
No, I never saw 8 Mile. I didn't see any of these.
That was the Eminem movie.
Yeah, yeah.
8 Mile.
Yeah. Of course, obviously we got Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker, Arthur Fleck, and Robert De Niro, Murray Franklin, and on. Lots of people.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting one. The Joker. This is just the origin story for the Joker, which lots of liberties with this because there's most comic books and movies don't name the Joker. In Tim Burton's Batman, Jack Nicholson was the Joker and his name was Jack Napier, but not Arthur Fleck. One thing I did think it was kind of interesting is that neither one of these movies opened with the big blockbuster DC opening, like where they would show like the kind of the whatever you want to call it, where they put all the characters together and you see Superman fly by and Batman throw the boomerang and Wonder Woman. Marvel has that thing where they show the pages. Neither movie did this. Batman did have a quick DC logo, but the Joker didn't associate itself in the opening with DC at all, which I thought was interesting.
Didn't notice.
Yeah, and the opening used that retro 70s Warner Brothers opening, and I think the reason why is this movie is clearly a callback to like the Scorsese movies of the 70s, like Taxi Driver and so forth. I think that had a lot to do with it. And also this movie had a huge controversy because when it first came out, not huge, but somewhat big, that it hit kind of too close to home, and they were worried that it would incite violence amongst those individuals that felt like they were, just negated in society. But that's just the way people are now.
Okay.
So, and I thought also this was interesting because this whole movie kind of defines the unreliable narrator. The Joker's kind of your narrator, but all kinds of crazy stuff happens around him. But all it is how the movie starts with him, living in a city where his life is shit. He doesn't feel like anybody notices him. He feels like he's constantly, everybody's attacking him. And you watch his slow decline to the point where the switch gets thrown and he becomes the Joker. So it's always kind of interesting because to me, this movie did have kind of that 1970s gritty kind of, like I said, like Taxi Driver is the easiest comparison here. But it's clearly taking place in a Gotham world, right? We got Thomas Wayne and you've got, it is Gotham, right? So, and he is the Joker. So, but what did you think about this movie?
Phoenix, awesome.
Yep.
Undeniably. God, I couldn't stop thinking of myself. So I'm not one. It's really, really hard for me. Or let me flip that. It's really, really hard for a movie to suck me in and make me forget that I'm watching a movie. I haven't had that happen, and I couldn't tell you how long. Saving Private Ryan, maybe. But so that didn't happen in this movie, so it wasn't that good.
Right.
But I remember thinking to myself as he was doing that crazy laugh thing, my perception of him through that laugh, through the course of the film, changed. And in the beginning, I thought that's a cheap parlor trick that they threw in there.
That dog,
I know, right? She's sleeping good. But yeah, I felt like in the beginning, it felt like a cheap little parlor trick, from the 70s. Joker was always doing that. I forgot who played that guy in the 70s Joker, but he was always,
Cesar Romero.
Yeah, with that crazy hair and all. Anyway, but as the movie developed and the character fleshed out a little bit more, and then you got the explanation that he couldn't control himself, and that was, that's how his body reacted. I was like, okay, so that added some validity to it. But then, I don't know if everybody else picked this up, but I noticed that as he was going into stressful situations, that's what was happening. Like that was his tell or whatever, his little trigger. Right. And so that made it all that much more powerful. And I ended up really appreciating that thing as a element of the story, because it informed you as a viewer a couple of things at the same time. One is that this character that we're watching he can't control himself, and also that he's something is about to happen because he's in this high stress situation. Maybe he's just going to walk away, but it can't keep going, right? So it adds this element of tension to the scene whenever that would happen. That I thought was a great device. That was a really great storytelling device, and it was used really well. Right. So that was cool. The whole thing with him and the social worker, again, I agree, too close to home, maybe. Yeah, but also it added this element of reality without being virtue signaling. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, shit like that really happens. People really do get treated crappy, and our wonderful government can pour money into stuff and take money out of stuff with zero regard for the actual humans that they claim to be trying to help. So I actually did like that part of it. And again, Joaquin Phoenix, with his weird body movements and stuff, that dancing shit, it's like he's just uncomfortable to watch, which I think is great. Yeah. I mean, that is that's perfect for an actor, man. It's like, because it forces you to pay attention and think. The mom, I thought she was just completely vanilla. I didn't appreciate that character really at all. I understand what she was in the film, but I do like his change in perception of her. That was kind of cool. And I said to my wife as we were watching it, and he was sitting in the hotel room or the hospital room, and he was still being really nice to her. And I said out loud, I was like, there is no way that this is going to be a Joker movie if he doesn't kill his mother. He's got to kill his mother. And then, of course, but yeah, of course he does. But I didn't like, so this is one of the criticisms I have of, and they might have been other takes, and they just decided for whatever reason to use this particular take. But while he was sitting there and he had made the decision to kill her, we as an audience don't get to see the emotional transaction. We don't get to see him change. We saw it a little bit in the scene before. I can't remember what the scene was. I think it was when after he stole the documents that proved that he was adopted, which, by the way, the scene where he's running down the hall, that was friggin' great, man. He just that slapped foot thing.
Yeah, like the Joker. Yeah. He embodied the Joker.
Yeah, it was really, really good. But anyway, so I think we saw this emotional transition during that scene, but I think that if he was really sitting in this hospital room about ready to kill his mom, you would get more of an emotional outlet somehow. Right. I would have to look really deep to figure that out. But that's the only disappointing part of his performance. And it was more about the edit than it was his performance. I'm sure they did that numerous ways, and this is what they decided to use. But it was cool when he snuffed her. That was kind of cool. Yeah. And then of course he was liberated. And so he kind of had this shift after that. Right. But, being the pivotal moment, I wanted to see the pivotal moment. Right. I wanted to see that. But
well, there was a few pivotal moments in that movie, too.
Yeah, I meant like like you're saying, like he it's one of those, I guess it's one of those psychological things. Like, yes, you can snap when the government takes away your funding and your meds and all that. But truthfully, when you suffocate your mother with a pillow, that's the moment that you go over the edge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so for whatever the reasoning was.
So yeah, everything same page. Just to make sure I give credit where credit is due. Of course, before I was doing this, I was looking things up, and Tarantino talks about this. Our man Tarantino talks about this movie, right? Okay, and so I'm going to borrow a little bit from what and some things I don't completely agree with him. Sorry. I know Quentin.
Well, whatever.
I know Quentin.
Everybody's got their opinion.
Well, he's probably listening.
He's
to this.
listening right
he's
now.
Listening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Quentin.
QT.
Yeah, you're
Didn't
my
mean to
man.
hurt your feelings, bud.
But he did talk about it being like a pure riff on Scorsese, right?
Okay.
And I don't quite see it that way. I mean, I think that there was between I forget the character's name in Taxi Driver, but it'll come to me later. But I think they were definitely on different paths. The Joker, but I think his. I don't want to overuse the word marginalized. He's not. It goes beyond that, right?
Yeah, he's screwed. He's just like screwed over by life.
He's forgotten. He's a forgotten individual. I mean, people like he.
Well, he's worse than that. I mean, he's shit on. I mean, he's worse than forgotten.
When he's yelling at Murray we'll get to that in a second, where he's saying, you guys feel sorry about those individuals that were shot in the subway. If it was me and I was laying dead in the street, you would walk right past me. Yeah. And he's not wrong. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
He's not wrong by that. And the fact that, like, when he goes into the bathroom and he's talking to Thomas Wayne and he says to Thomas Wayne, even though he's clearly crazy, and he says, would it kill you just to be nice, just to show me some courtesy, right? And he's constantly all the way through this. He's at the very beginning when he's riding the train and he's making the little boy laugh and the woman gives him shit, about that. It's just like everybody, their immediate reaction to him for whatever reason is just to treat him badly. His boss, that guy, what is it, Randall? Is it Randall? Yeah, Randall. That just,
with the pistol.
Yeah, his pistol. And there were some people in there that showed it. Even the psychologist, is just is an empty vessel that doesn't.
Well, she had a little bit of empathy there after they cut the funding and stuff for him, but
I mean, as much as she could, but he even commented that. You just ask me the same questions every time, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't amount to anything, And he says, I never have a good day. I mean, so you're watching the fuse burn with this guy, and I think you were talking about the pivotal moments when he shot those guys on the subway, and you're like, and he's a psychopath, but you find yourself they made the Joker you felt kind of.
Yeah, you find empathy.
And so the scenes.
Well, I will have to say too. On that note, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but I can't think of another actor other than Joaquin Phoenix that could pull that off.
He was. I mean, a couple. So stealing from Quentin again. This movie, not an action movie. If anybody's thinking about watching it, it's not an action movie. Yeah. It's a
psychological drama.
Yeah,
right?
And but the movie is not to me. It was never slow. I watched all of it. I'm kind of like, so it moved at a pretty good pace. Probably if I were, and this is just one of, I have a few different things that I don't like about it. But another thing too is, this is supposed to be like a criminal mastermind, and you're always kind of like, how does this guy become a criminal mastermind? I mean, he's not stupid, but he's not.
Yeah,
but
no genius.
He's not a genius. He just becomes a psychopath, right? But with that said, the two scenes I think were probably the most powerful. The first one was where, and this may go back to the director in The Hangover, but where he kills Randall, stabs him with the scissors, and the little person's there, right? And I thought the little person did a great job because that's how I would have reacted. Yeah. He's like he freaks out. He freaks out, and then. The Joker, and of course, he was one of the only people that ever showed him any kindness, right? Yeah. So Joaquin Phoenix or Arthur is like, you can leave, but the door is locked.
It's too high. Yeah,
the lock is too high. Yeah. So this individual who's has dwarfism, he can't reach it, and he has to let him out. I thought that was
so. Once again,
this is pretty funny.
So let me interject here and pause us both for a second and just say, for anybody who's listened to our podcast for a while, every time we review movies, I always get hung up on story, right? That's the thing I always harp on the most. And I would say this movie is just about a textbook example of good storytelling.
Yep.
Because that is a device. They didn't have to do that.
Right.
They did not have to have Arthur lock the door when the guy came in. He could have used the knob.
Right.
But they made him do that on purpose because they knew that when the little guy couldn't open it, Arthur would have to get up and open the door. And that does two things as a story.
Right.
One is it shows that Arthur really was not meaning that little guy any harm.
No.
Right? He really did. So that rounded out his character. He's
Right.
only after the people that were mean and bad to him, right?
Right.
The other thing that did is it added a little bit of comic relief, and it gave us as an audience a chance to breathe.
Right.
You just saw this vicious, crazy murder, and Arthur sitting there covered in blood and
White makeup.
Zero,
Yeah.
white makeup, and showing zero remorse for this. But it allows you to take a breath,
Right.
and then move on to the next, whatever happens next, right?
Right.
So it's an excellent device for storytelling, and it's been done in other films as well. But it's
And
after a real tense
right.
scene like that.
Right. And an author made a little joke, and it was actually funny. A guy who wasn't funny, as the guy walks like, and he jumps at him, and to be clear, the author he wants to be funny, but he's not
really
funny.
Does,
he's not funny.
But I'm sorry, I was just thinking to myself for a second. Another scene that comes to mind that's like that did not do this, and they did. I think they didn't do it on purpose. Is in Apocalypse Now when they raid that boat. And they kill all those people, and it's all about the puppy. They were protecting the puppy.
Right.
They don't give you that relief afterwards. It goes silent.
Right.
There's all this shouting and screaming and shooting. These people die, and they're pissed off and screaming, and they take the puppy, and then the movie, it doesn't go totally silent, but the scene cuts to them driving on the boat up the river again, and nobody's talking. And so you as an audience member go like, well, wait a minute, I'm waiting, like something has to happen and nothing happens. And you're just like, you just like keeps that tension inside. Well, this device allows you to okay, take a breath, man. That was actually kind of, and it just allows you to.
It definitely was a lot of different emotions, and I laughed. I mean, I thought it was funny, but it was. I felt so, and also I was relieved because I didn't want to see him hurt Gary.
Yeah, no,
Gary
of course,
was a great guy.
and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of that as a storytelling
and
device.
Also, and also that's another point where we see the switch get thrown for Arthur. Right?
Yeah,
he knows who he is now. He knows what he needs to do. And also, he's still very focused. He's not pure chaos.
But he's still reluctant at that point, right?
You think?
Yeah, I think by the time he killed him, he had already killed his mom.
He killed the fuck out of Randall.
Yeah, he did. He had already killed his mom, but I think he was somewhat reluctant in the beginning, and he just said, "I'm just going to do it and see what happens."
Right.
Sort of that instantaneous, let's jump off the cliff thing.
Right.
And I think that solidified his ability to because it's one thing to shoot somebody, right? But it's something, even though he did chase that one guy down and shoot him on the stairs.
Yeah. I was going to mention that.
Stab somebody that you personally know in the neck with a pair of scissors.
I mean, he stabbed him in the eye and the neck. Yeah.
So that's a little bit more intimate. So I think that solidified his willingness to do whatever he needed to do.
Right. And I was going to even comment on the when he shot those individuals on the subway, he shot like two of them more kind of in self-defense. The third one he went after. Of course, I think he probably knew that he had to do what he had to do.
Yeah, for the witness thing.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. You're a witness, bang. You're a witness, bang. So, but Joe DeRosa, by the way, that's his joke. Anyway,
one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie,
right?
Strangely enough, was where that gun goes off in his apartment for the first time.
Yes,
scares the living shit out of him.
He turns the TV up.
Yeah. But the way he's because you can watch him, and this is where the similarities with Taxi Driver come in.
Right.
You can watch him playing around with the possibility that he could be a tough guy or whatever. He's messing with this gun, and it goes off. And again, this is Joaquin Phoenix just being freaking brilliant actor.
Right.
And that thing goes off, scares the shit out of him, and it's just like
right. And at the same time, you get this whole this and. Well, I keep wanting to say, we're so much on the same page with Joaquin Phoenix in this. There was, I just put him in that rare air of some of the greatest actors because you never question him.
No,
he embodied that.
All the way.
All the way.
Yeah.
But you know, I agree that he was kind of like, hey, this is, I have a gun. This, changes the dynamic. But also he's even toying with suicide. He's doing, he's got the gun and he's thinking about killing himself or killing other people. That stays with us, you know?
And again, that's close to home, buddy.
It is.
That's what happens.
So, and also the second scene, I know which one, I know what, you know which scene I'm talking about is when he goes on the talk show.
Oh, it's the best.
It is. Yeah. Well, and again, back on Tarantino, referencing Tarantino said that's when the movie changed because, we still, and I'm only saying what he said because I agree with it, is that up to that point that this movie had this kind of, ran kind of parallel to a lot of other movies. Suddenly, because Murray Franklin, he's a bit of a dick, but he doesn't deserve to die, right? But with that said, when the Joker shoots him, you're like rooting for the Joker. You're like, yeah, he had that coming, and it is such a powerful scene. The whole scene is super powerful.
Yeah, I was happy when that happened. I was it was because I don't like what's his face anyways.
De Niro.
De Niro. I don't like almost anything that he's done. That's just me. I'm just not a fan.
Right. I hated that character, but the reason I think you were supposed to hate him.
Yeah.
I mean,
they make him that way on purpose.
He wasn't funny. He wasn't a funny guy. He was a talk show host. He was, he was arrogant, and entitled, so yeah.
Yep. And then the only downside for me was at the very end. I did think, by the way, when he was getting taken away in the cop car and then got hit by the ambulance, that was a great scene, man.
Yep.
And they did a really, really good job with that. But then when he was laying on the car, and all the other Jokers were showing up around him and stuff, I don't know. To me, that didn't click really right. I mean, I get it. I know what they were doing.
Right.
But I don't know. That one just felt, compared to the rest of the movie, that just felt cheap.
Right.
So, but who knows?
This movie, had this subverted hero's journey that we always talk about. Yeah. He went full circle. And I thought the end scene when he was in the hospital and he was walking away, leaving the bloody
bloody foot.
I thought that was a nice touch.
Very cool. Yeah. And then,
but
and so the other one of the scene I want to talk about real quick is when he actually met Bruce Wayne through the gates.
Yeah,
as a little kid.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool, man. I thought that was again him being so weird and stuff. But Bruce Wayne being a little kid, being open to almost, ready to let him in the gates.
Right.
So I thought that was one of those like, ooh, close call.
Right.
Butterfly effect thing. Like if things would have went slightly different, this whole thing would be different,
Right.
So I thought that was delicately handled well.
Even if Thomas Wayne would have been, been a little bit more sympathetic.
Yeah. It might have
changed everything. Yeah. And
but I didn't like the Thomas Wayne character in this.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way the actor portrayed him, for one, and for two.
Right.
I did feel like any other Thomas Wayne I've ever seen in any of these movies was not that much of an asshole.
No, he's sympathetic. Yeah.
He was just like a good guy all the way around.
Well,
even in the Batman, they made him out to potentially be a bad guy, but he still...
Right.
He had defenders saying that he was always a good guy. And this dude was just a dickhead.
He was.
It's just like...
He was. He was a politician, and I
automatically put you in my bad books.
It does. And I agree. I guess there were certain things that they did to move the story forward, and I think that was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
And that's also to the point that there was the neighbor that he saw himself dating. I thought that character
was cool.
That was a good character.
Yeah.
I liked her. And even though it was through his bent, warped mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so between the
so the Batman 7.
Okay.
And the Joker 8.5.
All right. Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah. I would honestly probably I'd probably go 9 on the Joker, and then so 8.5, 9, and about the same on Batman. I definitely like the Joker better.
Yeah, I would watch the Joker again. The Batman, I don't know.
Right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So I as I suspect, I think we we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
in it. Yeah.
Did you say that they're making a follow-up to the Batman?
And the Joker.
Oh, really?
Yep. They're making a sequel to the Joker.
Oh, wow. Well, that's going to be terrible.
I'm concerned.
Yeah. I think Joaquin will do a great job again if they can pull him in. I don't know. Are they going to do that? Is he going to?
Yeah, he's in it.
Okay. Well,
So,
then
same.
he'll do good. Then it's just I'll be interested to see. I actually watched that one. The Batman. I don't know. I want to see the trailers and go like, okay, it's worth it, or yeah, no, I'm not.
My thoughts are the Joker. I'm going to say stuff that's going to make you not want to watch it. So they're actually bringing in Harley Quinn.
Oh, it's all right. I don't mind that. I love that character.
I do too.
Yeah, I didn't like Birds of Prey because it was so freaking woke or whatever you want to call it. It was just so yeah, too much junk in there. But I love that character, Harley Quinn.
Yeah, well, I got her tattooed on me. So
yeah.
But you know who they're getting to play her?
Oh, good Lord, I don't know.
Lady Gaga.
Oh, I like her.
Okay, great. Well, then maybe
I don't like her music, but I think I tell you what, that's one of those things, man, where I respect her as an artist.
Okay.
Because she is out there, man.
Right.
She is not scared. She will expose herself and emotionally. That's what Joaquin Phoenix does.
Right.
He lays it out there, man. There is nothing left when he comes off, right? He like you said, he embodies that character. There's no Joaquin Phoenix. It is all Joker, right?
Right.
Whereas other people are too vain and they have to have a part of themselves in there. It's just how I see Tom Cruise. Right. Like, he makes good movies, but it's always Tom Cruise in the movie, no matter where. But anyway,
high knee running everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Lady Gaga is great for that as well. She lays it out there. So
yeah. A few thoughts. They're definitely making sequels to both. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, James Gunn is now like the man inside DC. The Joker, the thing about the Joker is it is so far outside the DC extended universe, right? Mm-hmm. That's just not a DC extended universe thing. And I'm not too sure the Batman is a DC extended universe. What I mean is that, if there's a Superman, you're not going to see Pattinson in the Superman. I don't think. I think they're going off in their own directions, which I think is a very good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we don't need another Marvel, right?
Right.
If we're doing these kind of standalones, that's fine to me,
sure.
Right? So they're definitely making sequels to both. I have hope for both, because Joaquin Phoenix was amazing.
Yeah, he was great. Well, I will say this, and this is the whole point of making movies. I'm not sure that I would actually pay money to see either.
Right.
I might watch them if they show up on Netflix or something, but I know I pay for Netflix. Don't send me hate mail. But I don't know that I would pay the $15 to go sit in the movie theater.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Maybe the Joker. It depends on what the trailers look like to me. But
right,
the Batman, it's unlikely.
We'll wait and see. We'll talk about it.
Especially if they put Catwoman back in there again. It's almost a definite.
One thing we might be able to do, the cat. Mm-hmm. The one thing we could maybe we'll do for podcasts like 248 or something like that. Mm-hmm. We'll go watch the Joker in the theaters, come back, and do a first impression.
I say we just talk about it during the movie in the theater.
I think honestly, you're always one-upping me, and this is one time I'm going to say I appreciate it.
Let's bring the recorder and the mics and go like, holy shit, did you see that?
I tell you what, even better, on the car there, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now.
Let's disrupt the audience. Shut up over there. Yeah. See what we can do. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, well, yeah. There you go.
There you go.
I hope you guys enjoyed that because it was and just so you know, it should be self-evident, I think, but Tony and I, we give each other assignments like this, and we don't talk about it beforehand. We purposefully do not discuss it. So this is like an open first time we talked about it.
Then, and there's always that kind of things where we might mention, I got things I want to say about it.
But from spoilers from our
but from usually from the tone of your voice, I'm kind of going like, he liked it, or he hated that shit. Yeah. So
mash.
Oh shit, man. Funny. Was it funny people? Funny games. Funny games. Shit. All right, we 1 to 1 on that.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, everybody.
All right. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye. This has been an Analog Spectrum production and presentation. We appreciate you listening to our podcast. It means a lot to both me and Doug. As always, we're looking for topic suggestions, folks to interview, and friends to join us on the show. If you can help with any or all of these, go ahead and send a quick note to Analog Spectrum, that's all one word, at gmail.com. Are you curious about our past uploads? Go check out our website. You'll find the link in the description. Finally, for any cast you've enjoyed, please leave a comment and a review. For that last part, it would mean a lot to us if you'd make it 5 stars. And don't forget to share us with your friends and family. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy day and spending time with us. There's nothing better than hanging out with you and all our friends in this crazy Analog Spectrum world.